Hello everyone, glad to be back. Today is 22nd of January, now it's 15 to 11 in the morning Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my first update for a day in which I will share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. There are quite a few very significant developments and news that I like to share with you for this moment, and I will start with yet another war crime committed by Kyiv regime yesterday. As many of you informed, Donetsk was targeted by Ukrainian armed forces yesterday's residential area of Donetsk marketplace, and because it was Sunday, of course, marketplace were very busy, a lot of people there, and unfortunately, as a result of this intentional strike against residential area, 27 civilians were killed and 25 wounded. According to latest information that I see, Russian side called this attack barbaric terrorist act. United Nations condemn this strike. Secretary General of US Antonio Guterres has condemned the attack against the capital of Russia's Donetsk People's Republic. But same time, he refused to pin the blame for the shelling that left at least 27 civilians killed and over 24 injured, including several children. Well, UN is a joke. You may disagree with me, but I think UN is a total joke. And I can say very same about head of UN, Secretary General Antonio Guterres. He is a puppet of Washington, and not surprisingly, he was unable to point out that Kyiv regime was responsible for that war crime and crime against humanity. Unfortunately, until Kyiv regime is totally destroyed and neutralized, this type of attacks against civilians will continue, I'm afraid, because that's what they are, really. That's their face. And more desperate Zelensky and his associates are, more risks are increasing that this kind of terrorist attacks against civilians will increase in numbers. Unfortunate reality, of course. RIA Novosti is reporting that according to Flight Radar, US Navy plane was circulating over the Black Sea yesterday at the time when Kyiv regime conducted yet another attempt to strike in Crimea direction with missiles, and the Russian Defense Ministry reported that 3 Ukrainian missiles were shot down over the Black Sea. Not the first, and I'm afraid not the last instance when US or NATO plane is operating over the Black Sea exactly at the time when Kyiv regime is conducting strikes deep inside Russian territory against Crimea or some other regions. And I'm afraid Western ruling class is pushing Kremlin towards corner when risks are increased significantly that Moscow may not see any other option to send clear enough message to Washington or other capitals of NATO member states that enough is enough. It's totally unacceptable that NATO member states are directly involved in war against Russia. Their militaries are directly involved, and therefore I'm afraid at some point in a week's time, in 2 weeks' time, or after months, some incidents may take place, and well, US or British or French surveillance plane may crash in the Black Sea, into the Black Sea. That may happen. I guess accident with the US drone over the Black Sea, when that drone crashed eventually, was not clear enough message for Western ruling class, and if that's the case, then maybe some additional messages will be needed, and I'm afraid Moscow definitely is close to the situation when when show of force will be necessary. And no one should blame Russia then for that, because Western ruling class, NATO member states are constantly escalating with Russia, constantly escalating, and at some point Russia will respond. That's how it's gonna be. RIA Novosti is reporting that according to Russia's Foreign Intelligence Service, US demanded from Zelensky some high-ranking officials to be removed from their positions, high-ranking officials that US lost trust in, which no names here in this report. Maybe we will learn some more later on during the day if Russia's Foreign Intelligence Service will share additional information with the public. But well, let's see what change is gonna happen in the Washington, in the Kiev. There are a number of people that Biden's administration may find difficult to work with. For example, Budanov, one of them. Budanov openly admitted that he was involved in terrorist activity on Russian soil. I don't think this is exactly the individual that Washington wants to be associated with. So Budanov will be replaced, most likely. I don't think Zaluzhny will be replaced, because Zaluzhny is an asset of United Kingdom, and even if Washington demands Zaluzhny to be removed, and then all the failures to be blamed on Zaluzhny, well, I don't think this is happening, because even if Zelensky tries to remove him, that may provoke civil war inside, because Ukrainian militaries may not accept this decision from the Zelensky. And dear friends, yesterday during the live stream on my YouTube channel, one of the members of our community did ask me opinion about these rumors that are circulating now in the internet, that Zelensky is planning to remove Zaluzhny from the office and replace him with Budanov. And well, my opinion is that this is not happening. Even if Zelensky will try to remove Zaluzhny from the position of head of general staff of Ukraine, I don't think Budanov gonna be put in that place, because Budanov is a terrorist. Budanov is a terrorist. He admitted to be involved in terrorist activity on Russian soil, killing civilians, by the way, killing journalists, public figures, attempting murders of public figures. And therefore I don't think Budanov even can be considered as a possible replacement for Zaluzhny. One, because he is a terrorist, and second, because he is not really a general. He is not a general. He has no education to be head of general staff. So it seems impossible to me. I mean, too stupid even for a foreign current regime in Kiev. Although to replace Zaluzhny with Budanov, although Zelensky definitely may try to remove Zaluzhny and replace him, let's say, with General Syrskyi, head of ground forces of Ukraine. But yet again, will Ukrainian armed forces accept such changes? That's a whole different question. And this type of move from Zelensky may definitely increase internal tensions and may even provoke armed confrontation between the camps, between the camp of Zelensky and between the camp of Zaluzhny. But anyway, let's see what kind of changes will be made in Kiev. Also, RT's report here that according to representative of Ukraine's Air Force, Russia knows where they are hiding weapons in Ukraine. Well, quite interesting admission. Let's read several sentences here. Stockpiling arms and munition in Ukraine makes little sense due to the ability of Russian forces to effectively identify and strike such locations. Kiev Air Force spokesman has admitted. Yuri Ignat also warned that the US-made F-16 fighter jets could become a good target for Moscow if supplied to Ukraine. Kiev has increasingly complained about the lack of munition supplies from the West in recent months. However, speaking to a local media outlet, Focus, on Saturday, Ignat suggested that the Ukrainian military would not be able to stockpile large quantities of munition anyway, due to threats of it being swiftly destroyed by Russia. We cannot take a huge number of missiles, Ignat said, commenting on the stockpiles for air defense systems. One has to store them somewhere, and the enemy will know about it sooner or later. The Air Force spokesman also admitted that it made little sense to place entire munition depots in Ukraine, since Russian intelligence was effective at identifying such locations. This was also true for F-16 fighter jets, he stated, asking, will they just arrive here and become a good target for the enemy? And by the way, I will comment now these statements because, well, very interesting projection from the Yuri Ignat, is representative of Ukraine Air Force. And well, when it comes to munition, it's understandable that Russian side is constantly destroying these munition depots of Ukrainian armed forces, and one can understand why Kyiv regime is afraid to stockpile missiles or any other type of weapons in Ukraine in large quantities. But when it comes to F-16s, I mean, I want to pay attention to F-16s because if you remember, I did report it a couple of months ago that according to Russian think tank and biggest military channel, by the way, on Telegram, with over 1 million subscribers, Reaper, Kyiv regime already received 5 F-16s. This was reported a couple of months ago. So Kyiv regime already received, according to Reaper's information, 5 F-16 in the parts, and then most likely was reassembled in Ukraine. But we did not hear any additional information about F-16s in Ukraine. There was no statements from Russian side, from Russian officials. There were no statements from Ukrainian side. And well, if Reaper was correct when this channel reported about these F-16s in Ukraine, first bunch of F-16s in Ukraine, then my guess is that most likely Russian intelligence find out locations of those planes and destroy them even before those F-16s take their first flight. And that's why maybe Yuri Ignat is mentioning F-16s, because they already have experience of those F-16s being destroyed on the ground. This is my guess, by the way, but well, maybe that's exactly the case. And well, after special military operation will end, maybe we will learn some more information that will confirm this guess of mine. I don't know. But anyway, probably all of you did notice that for the last 2 months, especially for the last 2 months, Russian side was very active in strikes against airfields all over the Ukraine. And you know, it's quite possible that if Reaper's report is correct and some number of F-16s were delivered to Kyiv regime in parts, those planes, of course, would be reassembled then and deployed in different areas. And well, Russian side may take them out one by one. That's possibility. Anyway, let's continue. RT is reporting that, well, according to Mayor of Kyiv, Vitali Klitschko, Zelensky making Ukraine an authoritarian state. Interesting. No surprise for us, for our community, because I think we are well enough informed, but I think this type of information definitely gonna be somewhat surprising for the majority of the Western community, let's say, that are under heavy influence of Western propaganda, and they may believe that Ukraine is like top democracy in the world or something like that. But let's read several sentences here. So Ukraine is increasingly heading towards authoritarian rule under President Vladimir Zelensky and his administration. The mayor of Kyiv, Vitali Klitschko, told Canada's Globe and the Mail in an interview published on Friday. The government has largely consolidated its control over the national media, leaving almost no space for alternative viewpoints, and has started to replace elected local officials. He claimed Ukraine major TV broadcasters have been airing a single show known as the United News Telemarathon almost since the start of special military operation in February 2022. The program mostly consists of live news broadcasts, interviews, and talk shows. According to Klitschko, it has allowed the government to establish a monopoly on information. The mayor argued that the content of the show is controlled by the state and that any dissenting or critical voices are simply not allowed. Objective, true information is very important to society, and my monopoly on information, I guess, is not good, he told the Globe and the Mail. He also said that the significant part of Ukrainian society does not understand exactly what happens on the front lines, since the show highlights this show that are broadcasted on all the Ukrainian TV channels, since the show highlights Ukrainian military successes while downplaying the setbacks. We are worried that some government institutions were involved in that repression of the free media, Klitschko explained. He accused Zelensky of not paying attention to the issue of prosecution of journalists in Ukraine. The list of Klitschko's concerns does not end with the media, as according to him, the government has also used martial law introduced to replace more than 200 mayors and local council heads with the military administration. The mayors and the heads of community are elected by citizens, and they are instead being replaced by people who are put in from the top. So that why I worry, that's why I'm worried. Former world boxing champion turned politician said. Yet again, no surprises for us in the statements of Klitschko. We all know that media is in total control in Ukraine. We all know that opposition parties mainly are banned in Ukraine, and many politicians are in exile. And we all know that Zelensky is consolidating, trying at least to consolidate as much power in his hands as possible. So Klitschko says how it is in Ukraine. And no surprises for us, but for Canadian public, for example, he gave this interview to Canadian media outlet. For majority of Canadian public, these revelations may be somewhat surprising, because if they are listening for the last 2 years only Western propaganda, or only propaganda of the Western ruling class, then most likely they are thinking that Zelensky is some kind of angel, you know, and Ukraine is a #1 democracy in this world, when Zelensky is a war criminal and mass murderer, and Ukraine is a failed state and never even was close to democracy. Anyway, let's continue. Kommersant newspaper is reporting that, Brussels bureaucrats are considering to allow countries, EU member states that are bordering Ukraine, to establish their own rules, what can be imported, what agricultural produce can be imported from Ukraine, and what not in their countries. This decision, if it will be implemented, will definitely become a somewhat break for farmers, and I will say truckers also, in Hungary, Poland, Slovakia, Romania, Bulgaria, I will say, although Bulgaria is not bordering directly Ukraine, but well, I guess this decision of Brussels will probably will give Bulgaria also rights to protect its local market and support their local producers. But what about rest of the Europe? What about rest of the EU and farmers there? What they gonna do? Because they already said openly and many times that they cannot compete with the cheap and quite often low quality agricultural produce that floods EU markets. So what German farmers gonna do, or Spanish farmers or Italian farmers? Or their rights don't mean nothing? I don't know. This decision, in one hand, well, of course, calm things down in countries that are neighbors to Kiev regime, but may become one more reason for internal divisions in the EU, because it's obvious that farmers in Holland, for example, in Netherlands will say, you know what, okay, we are in support of Polish colleagues, Polish farmers, or Hungarian farmers and Slovakian farmers or Romanian ones, but I mean, we also have some issues here because of this cheap goods from Ukraine. And why no one is protecting our rights? It's a logical question, isn't it? So this decision, if it will go through, if it will be adopted, definitely may create some additional internal tensions in the EU. But anyway, let's continue. TASS News Agency is reporting that Israel refused to agree on a new Hamas initiative on a peace plan, according to which Hamas would release all the hostages and Israel will agree on a ceasefire. Netanyahu's government already stated a number of times, and Netanyahu himself, that they are not considering ending military operation anytime soon. And Netanyahu was quite direct when he said that this military operation will last for many more months. So, and by the way, yesterday during the live stream, I was asked about Saudi Arabia's peace plan, peace initiative, and what I think about it. And well, I don't think it really matters what we think about any peace plan from Saudi Arabia, from Russia, from China, from India, from UN. Israeli government is not willing to talk peace at this point, and unfortunately, world community is so weak that at this point, at least, nothing can be done to influence decisions that Netanyahu and his associates are making. That's objective reality. Because decisions, by the way, from UN we already have, and there should be two-state solutions. And for now, Palestine is supposed to be independent state, fully independent state, without any Israeli occupation and Israeli influence there. But Netanyahu's government and governments of Israel before him never really pay any attention to two-state solution. And Netanyahu quite clearly says about a few days ago that for him it's totally unacceptable to discuss any statehood of Palestine at all. At least that's a report that I see on a number of sources. So he's in principle are not willing to discuss topic of Palestinian statehood. So in this case, well, no matter which side will come up with what peace plans, Saudi Arabia, UAE, I guess Saudi Arabia's plan has support of vast majority of Arab world and the rest of the world also. I mean, world will support any peace plan. Let's say this way. World will support any peace plan, but yet again, until Netanyahu's government is not willing to talk about peace, I don't think there is any realistic chances that we will see the escalation in the region. Let's continue. Kommersant newspaper is reporting that well, Israeli government criticized the Russian foreign ministry and Russian foreign minister in particular, because a few days ago, and also this criticism goes for Maria Zakharova, I guess, also because she was also speaking about this conflict in the Middle East, and a few days ago, if you remember, foreign minister of Russian Federation said that Israel has no right to do whatever it wants just because Jewish people immensely suffered during the Second World War, and he said simultaneously that same time that Soviet peoples were also target of Nazi Germans. Millions of Soviet people died, but this historical fact does not give a right for Russia, and it did not give the right to Soviet Union to do whatever Moscow wants or wanted. And same applies for Israel, and I guess Israeli government did not like this. And we all know, by the way, whenever Israeli government quite often justifies its actions, always apply that, you know what, we have to do this, we have to do that in order to protect ourselves because Holocaust happened. And we cannot allow this to happen again. And it should never happen again, obviously. Never should happen. No one argues about that. But, by the way, this does not give you a right to do whatever you want. It's a simple stuff, really. And that's what was pointed out by Russian foreign minister. And also, by the way, Maria Zakharova did made a comment on this process in the International Criminal Court. As you know, South Africa is accusing Israel of genocide, and Germany, by the way, went against South Africa and pledged his allegiance to Israel. And Maria Zakharova basically was somewhat critical of Germany. And let me translate entire sentence here to be more precise. That will be better. So on the eve of January 21st, the official representative of Russian Foreign Ministry, Maria Zakharova, responded to Germany's desire to confront South Africa on the issue of accusing Israel of genocide. She noted that Berlin referred to the consideration of German history and the crime against humanity of the Holocaust. Maria Zakharova believes that by doing this, Germany declares itself as an expert in matters of mass extermination of people. She recalled that according to UN General Assembly resolution and a number of other international documents, Holocaust is the prosecution and mass extermination of representatives of various ethnic and social groups by the Nazis. And this statement, I guess, also was taken by Israeli government negatively. And well, they are, although Maria Zakharova says factual, everything factual, isn't it? But well, yet again, current government of Israel thinks they can do anything with impunity, and well, okay, they can criticize Russian foreign ministry, who cares? But world is watching, by the way. World is watching, and people do understand where is true and where is and where there is no true and substance. RT is reporting that according to Wall Street Journal, Israel has killed just about a fifth of Hamas fighters. Israel has killed between just 20 and 30% of Hamas fighters in Gaza since declaring war on the Palestinian militant group following its cross-border raid on October 7th, according to US intelligence estimates reported by the Wall Street Journal on Sunday. In a classified report compiled earlier this month, Washington estimated Hamas had between 25 and 30,000 fighters in the Gaza before the war, plus thousands of the members of the territory's police force and the other authorities, basing its estimates on intercepted communications, drone surveillance, and Israeli intelligence. In addition to estimated 5 to 9,000 dead militants, another 10 to 11,000 Hamas fighters have been wounded, a US official told the Wall Street Journal, clarifying that many of those injured Hamas fighters later could return to the combat. The remaining fighters are likely doing 2 or 3 jobs, having assumed the responsibilities of their fallen comrades, retired Army General Joseph Votel said. Hamas, which has governed Gaza since 2007, also retains the firepower to continue strike Israel and Israel Defense Force assets in the Palestinian territories for a month, according to the journal, which added that the group is currently trying to re-establish its police force in Gaza City despite much of the densely populated area being reduced to the rubble. Well, it's hard to believe these numbers, really, because these numbers came from US intelligence service and Israeli militaries or Israeli intelligence service. No one really knows probably how many fighters Hamas really has, maybe not even leadership of Hamas. But what is obvious is that they are continuing to fight. So fight in Gaza Strip continues. And at least for now, I would not say that Israeli forces, Israeli defense forces achieved all the goals that they had before their ground operation began. Most likely, Israeli forces are somewhat surprised that they are receiving such a heavy resistance from Hamas. Most likely. But yet again, of course, we cannot compare firepower of two sides, and eventually Israeli forces will be able to defeat Hamas or take out vast majority of Hamas fighters. Yet again, I mean, you cannot compare firepower of these two sides, but I'm afraid at this point Netanyahu's government is more concentrated to provoke conflict with the Lebanese Hezbollah. And then, who knows, maybe even with Israel. That's how tense situation is in the region. And well, if world community will continue to, if world community will not be able to press sides to begin peace talks and end hostilities, then I'm afraid to avoid regional conflict will be impossible. As time goes by, there are more and more risks that Middle East will end up in a regional conflict, which will devastate region and will devastate entire world. Interfax also reports that well, EU is working now. Brussels are working now on some steps to be taken against government of Netanyahu because of refusal of Netanyahu to begin peace talks, to de-escalate. But yet again, we are talking about Brussels bureaucrats, by the way, and you tell me how many of them are under severe influence of Israeli secret services or Israeli lobby or other means of influence. So statements, some statements may be made in Brussels, but when it comes to real steps, I don't think Brussels will take any steps against Netanyahu's government. Any. Just statements, that's all. No actions will be taken. Maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. But my understanding is that Israel and forces that are behind the Netanyahu's government have a most powerful lobby, most powerful means of influence in this world. That's the impression that I get from what I see, you know, because politicians, especially in the Western world, by the way, are afraid to criticize Israel. They are afraid to say that Netanyahu's government is committing ethnic cleansing in Gaza Strip, which is obvious. They are afraid to say that Netanyahu's government is attempting genocide in the Gaza Strip, attempting to conduct genocide in Gaza Strip. They cannot say nothing. They are afraid to say it as it is. And if some high-ranking officials in the Western world sometimes will say something that will not go well with the Israeli leadership, then they are calling to Israel and are trying to explain themselves and you know, like Macron did, by the way, president of France, about months ago. I mean, so I think EU will do nothing to pressure Netanyahu's government, but some statements we may hear, and that's it. RT reports that US is preparing for sustained Yemen bombing campaign, according to Washington Post. The US is preparing for a sustained bombing campaign in Yemen after 10 days of airstrikes failed to undermine the ability of Houthi fighters to target ships in the Red Sea. The Washington Post has reported, citing unnamed officials. Well, it's how are you gonna comment this news? By the way, I cannot imagine that in Pentagon or in White House there are no people who knows that Ansar Allah movement was under constant bombing, shelling, and pressure from Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates for years, almost I don't know, 8-9 years, and still Ansar Allah movement maintain its capabilities to target deep inside Saudi Arabia, for example, and they did quite a number of times. So this organization, this movement, is well equipped for maintain its battle capabilities in this, even if enemy forces are much more superior when it comes to firepower, when it comes to air power, or even ground power, ground forces. Because Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates, they are equipped with the almost most modern weapons that there is on the market. So I don't know what's going on in the Washington, but if they are thinking that they can bomb more Yemen and this will give them some results, I mean, they are mistaken. They are mistaken, man. Either lost their minds or what's going on in Washington, really. But that's a report of Washington Post, by the way, that Biden's administration plan is to further increase bombing campaign. And at some point, when they will realize that bombing campaigns are not working, they may send ground forces to Yemen. They may send ground forces to Yemen. And in that case, well, US may find itself in almost similar situation as they were in Iraq and in Afghanistan. This war may last for decades in Yemen. I don't know. This is issue of society of the U.S. by the way, because after all, U.S. at least claims to be democracy and to act according to Constitution. And well, when Biden's administration asked Congress for authorization to conduct these military operations against other country, never. They never did. But anyway, let's continue. TASS news agency is reporting that Lavrov has arrived in New York to participate in the work of Security Council of the UN, and main topics of discussion, of course, will be situation in the Middle East, and I believe Lavrov will, of course, make some statements about yesterday's war crimes that were committed, that was committed by Kyiv regime by shelling residential areas of Donetsk city. RIA Novosti reports that the Santos presidential hopeful is leaving this race, and he supported he made statement that he's in support of Trump now. And well, who is left in the race, by the way? Trump and Nikki Haley. Who else? Ramaswamy left race a few days ago. Now the Santos. It's Trump and Nikki Haley. Who else? I can't remember, but well, whatever the case, well, number of supporters of the Trump will, of course, further increase after this move from DeSantis, who is a quite popular politician, by the way, among Republicans, especially in the Florida. And Florida as a state doing quite well, as I understand. That's from where his popularity comes from. But during this campaign, he made some very, very big mistakes, especially in on topics of foreign policy, and therefore he lost this race pretty early on, let's say. But he used presidential campaign to to boost his image, his popularity on a federal scale. And well, I guess that was the time to leave this office, leave this race, and that's what he did. Also, RT reports, by the way, that Egypt is falling out of favor with Russian tourists. According to media, the number of bookings made by Russians for the popular Egyptian tourist destinations of Cairo and Sharm el-Sheikh in January has seen a year-on-year decline of 14%. Russian business daily Kommersant reported earlier this week, citing calculations by travel website Astrovog.ru. Well, unfortunately, Egypt is suffering from many different directions because of this crisis between Israel and Palestine, then a crisis in the Red Sea, and overall situation in the region is such that I guess not just Russian tourists, but tourists from all over the world are reconsidering their potential trip to Egypt, and of course it's going to be harmful for Egypt's economy, which is sad, really, which is sad because Egypt has nothing to do with all that crisis, and Egypt is directly hit as a result of this escalation. But once things will come down, of course, Egypt will regain again popularity among tourists worldwide, not just here in Russia, because it's one of the major destinations. I did report this news. I did spoke about it yesterday during the live stream, and I said that in this world, no matter how long, how many years gonna pass, there are certain destinations that will always be popular among tourists, and Egypt definitely is one of them. Indo-Pacific region, China, India, entire region there, very rich especially in ancient culture. If you are interested in ancient history, then like I do, for example, then of course Southeast Asia will always be a major hotspot, major tourist destination. All the countries there. Also, of course, Egypt, Persia, about Iran, by the way, which is a birthplace, one may say, which is a birthplace of modern Indo-European civilization. Some scientists are arguing about it, but I think Iran, Middle East, by the way, in general, definitely is the birthplace of this so-called Indo-European civilization. Then, of course, Greece, by the way, Greece, where every city, every village is a history. Italy, I mean, Italy, also the same. Every street, every house, every city and town, village is history. Egypt, one of them, and also, of course, Latin America, by the way, Maya and Inca civilizations. They had, they were building pyramids also, by the way. Like you're gonna see pyramids in the Indo-Pacific also. In Asia, by the way, there are pyramids there. There are pyramids in Egypt, also in Latin America. Interesting, isn't it, that these different societies, different cultures come up with their more or less similar architecture in some sense when it comes to pyramids. But anyway, let me continue. So, well, unfortunately, Egypt is in difficult situation now, but I believe once things will come down in Middle East, the tourists will go back to Egypt, because, I mean, it's Egypt, by the way. RT is reporting that UK to become only G20 member without steel production. Yet another news about decline of major European economy. Steel production. Steel producer Tata Steel plans to close blast furnaces at its Port Talbot plant in South Welsh and lay off nearly 3,000 workers, according to media reports. This move, which is part of a major restructuring of the company's UK operations, will reportedly leave the UK as the only G20 economy unable to make steel from the scratch. Well, I don't care about steel, but 3,000 workers may lose their jobs, ordinary people like us, and that's disappointing here. That's most important here, but well, it is what it is. Government, UK was very unlucky with the governments for last at least 2 decades, I would say, and results are quite telling, really. And the UK's economy, UK's economy is definitely not in the best shape. Let's say it this way. Like a number of other major European economies, Germany, France, Italy. TASS news agency is reporting that, well, according to Bloomberg, by the way, prices on gas in Europe continue to fall. And this is good, but I wanted to share this information because, I mean, at least something good is happening. At least something good is happening. Well, gas is a different point is, I mean, maybe gas price I mean, the gas prices are failing in a spot market, but well, if companies will still demand high prices from their customers, from the households, then I don't think this information gonna be any good, gonna bring any happiness to anybody. But well, let's hope prices are dropping, not just on a spot market, but also in EU member states for ordinary households. Well, our members can share with us, our members of our community from Europe can share in the comment section if prices are coming down on the gas. Let's hope so. Let's hope so. That's why I chose this information, by the way, to share something positive. So let's hope prices are really coming down in Europe on gas and energy in general. And well, this is it for now. How long is this video? 15 minutes, by the way. Still quite long. But hopefully you will find this update interesting. And if so, please consider to click that like button, leave some commentary, and share video with your friends. It will definitely help to reach wider audience and further develop this project. And if you think my work is and my channels are interesting, useful, and deserve to exist in this field of news and political commentary, please consider to support with small donations through PayPal, buy me a coffee, or by subscribing to my Patreon page. You can see links under this video in the description box or in the pinned comment. This is it for now. Have a great day and take care.